work. Well, today marks the first day of National Employee Freedom Week. Its aim is to inform you of your options, especially if you're in a union. Joining us is Vincent Vernuccio. He is the Director of Labor Policy at the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Nice to see you. You go by Vinny, though.
I go by Vinny, sure.
You go by Vinny. All right, tell us, what is National Employee Freedom Week? And it starts right now.
Starts right now, and we're really excited to kick off National Employee Freedom Week right here on Fox & Friends. Started today, and it is a week dedicated to informing union employees of their options for union membership, whether they want to stay in a union, whether in a right-to-work state they want to fully opt out and not have to pay a union for representing or not representing them, as the case may be, or in the forced unionism states, exercising their right to be an agency fee payer or a religious objector.
So how does this work? Is there an education process, seminars that are set up, tutorials that people can go through? And what are you hearing from the unions? Do they like you guys?
Well, we haven't heard much from the unions just yet. There are educational campaigns going on around the country. There's almost 60 organizations involved in it in over 35 states, so it's very exciting. It started in Nevada with the Nevada Policy Research Institute. They did it locally there, and now they're spreading it across the country, and they're doing a great job.
Do the labor unions try to fight back on this week and say, hey, look, let's...
Well, it's the first time this has actually gone national, so I think some of the labor unions might be caught by surprise.
It's interesting. So if legally you only have a small window annually to opt out, and I think a lot of workers weren't aware. My first job in the television business, I didn't realize that I had to join a union. And when you see that large chunk of your paycheck being forced to come out, you know, you were living on canned food at the time, thinking, wait a second, I have to pay into this. No one told me about this.
That's right, and a lot of union members don't know what their options are, and that's what National Employee Freedom Week is all about. And if you're in a right-to-work state, you can say, all right, you're not representing my interest, I don't want to have to pay you. Now, unfortunately, in the 26 forced unionism states, you don't have that right. But they have the right to be an agency fee payer or a religious objector. And the problem is, like you said, it is extremely difficult to exercise those options, and that's what this week is all about.
What about the devil's advocate side of here and those who say, look, unions are great, and I want to know about maybe some alternatives? Who else is going to stand up for me when I want to get that raise, or I need that cost of living increase, or health care, or these other things? If I'm not in a union, am I going to be hurt by that?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, there are some alternatives, and it's great that workers now have the option. In fact, there's a couple groups out there, and some actually specifically focused on teachers. They're professional associations, like the Christian Educators Association or the Association of American Educators, which are non-union alternatives to provide many of the same services that the unions offer, such as liability insurance, such as legal representation. So it's fantastic that today workers now are starting to get more and more options for who's going to represent them at work.
Do you think that unions are struggling right now, and especially over the last 2 years?
Unions are struggling. They're struggling across the country. You've seen a huge membership decline, not just over the last 2 years, but really over the last couple decades. And that's because the unions have this kind of turn of the century, 1900 Industrial Revolution business model, this adversarial relationship, focusing more on politics than worker representation, and they really haven't changed or adapted to a modern workforce. Hopefully, those unions will start to adapt, will focus less on politics and more on the individual worker instead of the current one-size-fits-all, and that's how they're going to improve.
Vincent Vernuccio is the Director of Labor Policy at Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Vincent, great to see you this morning.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me on.
Have a great weekend. All right, let's check in.